It's upon us, the greatest card of all time. Jose Aldo versus Ayman Zahabi, Alexa Grasso, Natalia Silva. Whew. BSD versus Kyle Propelek. What? Are you kidding me, man? We get to watch Kyle Propelek back in the UFC? Wow. It's been far too long, I'm sure we can all agree, right? And this is most definitely a worthwhile replacement for Benoit Saint-Denis, and not just the Chris Moutinho versus Sean O'Malley situation being rehashed once again. And just the sheer disrespect. Oh my goodness. Wow, Dana White. Wow, you found Kyle Propelek. Oh my god, he's Canadian. Wow, we're so excited because it's in Canada. Get it, guys? We need to have Canadian fighters in the card, even though fucking Canadian fighters suck dick. And take a look at this, man. I'm sure a lot of you have already seen it, but about 50% of seats have been sold, and we are on fight week, man. This is kind of unprecedented when it comes to the UFC, and I think really just paints the picture, right? People are finally talking with their wallets and rejecting this dog shit card, right? This shit should not be rewarded at all, in the slightest. This is shameless from the UFC. Like taking, what was it, Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales, and there was another really good fight on this card that was taken off it as well. And then you get the Benoit Saint-Denis versus Joel Alvarez situation. Like it's so ridiculous that this is being held up as a fucking pay-per-view in the first place. Like don't get me wrong, right? The main event is very good. I'm very excited for the main event. The co-main is a title fight, and that's as far as I'll go with it. Right? I know it's Valentina Shevchenko, so that's pretty exciting, I guess, if you give a shit to watch her fight Manon Fiorot. Personally, I don't really care, man. I really don't care personally. But like Jose Aldo, Ayman Zahabi, I guess that's a cool fight. Spoiler alert, I'm picking Jose Aldo, and I'm just not going to go through this whole card, man. Out of sheer spite for how terrible it is, I will not go through this whole card because I just don't care enough. Natalia Silva versus Alexa Grasso. I'm picking Natalia Silva. There you guys go. Benoit Saint-Denis versus Kyle Propelek. Do I even have to speak? Do I have to speak on that one for you guys to know my prediction? No, I don't. So I won't even dignify that fight with the fucking prediction because it's ridiculous. But I would like to talk about the main event, man, because I feel like it's extremely intriguing. It's a great clash of styles, and I love a good clash of styles like this because it could turn out to be boring. Having said that, JDM is not the kind of fighter who allows a fight to remain boring, right? You could say that the Gilbert Burns fight was quite boring. He broke his arm in the first round, his forearm, I believe it was, and he still pushed until the very end for the finish. So you could say that he was taken down, this and that. So what can Belal do to him? I get that. It's the last time we saw JDM, but then again, it is harder to fight off takedowns when your forearm is fucking snapped like a twig, yet he was still fighting back to his feet until the bitter end, up until this sequence right here, which is one of my favorite finishing sequences in a long time. The way he scrambled back to his feet, used the cage, and instantly goes for the knee, and then that ground and pound was brutal, right? Carlos Prates could take a little note from JDM when it comes to finishing a fight via ground and pound. So JDM has no shortage of killer instinct. This man, when he smells blood, he reminds me a lot of like a welterweight version of Dustin Poirier. Fantastic boxer, and once he knows he has you hurt, he has your back against the fence, he starts piecing you up, man, going to the body, going to the head, mixing it up like that. There are a few fighters who are scarier than JDM in those instances, man. And he does throw bombs. He has fantastic technique in those hands. And I feel like every other aspect of his game, because he's so good at boxing in particular, and that is where he is a specialist in, his other aspects are, I feel, very underrated by many. I feel like he has an underrated kicking game, right? His round kicks are good. They're technically sound, right? And his grappling, man. He is a great sprawl and brawler. His ability to stuff takedowns is quite underrated. I get Basil Hafez took the fight on short notice. I get it, and he was able to take down JDM, and he probably won round one, and everyone says, oh, robbery, Basil Hafez, he had control time, even though JDM was fucking pinging this dude's head around the octagon and quite frankly beating him up. The third round was most definitely a 10-8, and I get the guy took it on short notice, so it's tough to be objective in those situations because we're just overly impressed by the guy who took the fight on 5 days' notice and did better than expected. But Basil Hafez, man, he looked awesome on that night, dude. I feel like that version of him, dude, like how tenacious he was, he could have given any fucking welterweight on that night a run for their money. But at the same time, JDM in that particular fight was in a very similar situation to Diego Lopez when he fought Dan Ige. You know what I mean? Where he had to weight cut multiple different times, and clearly he was not at his best in the octagon that night, but he still managed to put on a very good performance and fight of the night, man. So in the fights where JDM is at his worst, and when he still picks up wins, by the way, there is an asterisk there. Not saying it's an excuse to sort of explain away JDM's lackluster performances, but there are legitimate reasons for why he maybe wasn't able to perform at his best. But even when he's not at his best, he's still able to pick up the win. And the guy's pretty much undefeated. The guy, I believe he's on a 17-fight win streak, and he has 17 wins, right? So he's only lost his debut fight. This man is essentially undefeated, and he should be promoted. I'm not too sure why the UFC doesn't put more into promoting JDM. The guy is extremely exciting, and I love his attitude. I love his no-nonsense attitude. He doesn't give a shit about all the glitz and the glamour, the fucking fame, notoriety, nothing. The guy goes into the cage in order to cause acts of violence against his opponents. And on Belal Muhammad, I'm not too sure if it's a meme to hype up Belal Muhammad's boxing abilities, but it does seem like people have gotten to the point where they're extremely delusional about the skill set of Belal Muhammad. I will give Belal a lot of credit here. He is extremely tough, right? He is a very, very tough dude, has a killer gas tank. He is a great wrestler, and he puts on fantastic pressure. He is a great, great pressure fighter. But you look at a couple of his last wins, right? The Sean Brady win ages beautifully. I think the Stephen Thompson win, like he did go through. I mean, you could call it murderer's row, but at the same time, like a lot of these matchups are stylistically favorable for him. But then again, man, the Sean Brady fight, like I said, dude, with how good Sean Brady's looked since then, that ages beautifully. But Gilbert Burns had like one arm during that fight, I believe, and yes, he did dominate Burns. But I feel like when you have 25 minutes to beat up an injured opponent, you should at least be going for the finish. But then again, Belal is pretty much like the Marab of welterweight, so it's no surprise he's not able to finish a one-armed man. But then against Leon Edwards, it's the perfect fight for Belal Muhammad to dominate an opponent, because Leon Edwards is the most complacent striker like on the roster, pretty much. The most complacent. He only strikes when he is in perfect position to do so, right? It's the only time he does, and even when he does, he's half committal in his shots. It's why you see Leon Edwards, despite the fact that he is an elite fighter, but at the same time, you see when he's throwing his hands, when he throws a left hand, his chin is all the way back because he's kind of half in, half out, as I always say about Leon Edwards. And that's just the easiest type of fight for Belal Muhammad to win with that style, that forward pressing style. Of course, he was going to break Leon Edwards, but having said that, after rewatching the fight again, the fight, it wasn't as completely one-sided as I remember it being. There was a point where Leon Edwards was able to take the back of Belal Muhammad. He did land some pretty good shots on Belal during that fight. Honestly, some pretty good left hands, and exploited Belal for some of his poor defense in the pocket, man. You can see it, dude. Look at some of the tendencies from Belal Muhammad that he displayed against Leon Edwards. You give Jack Della Maddalena these types of openings, and he's cracking you with a left hook, or he's digging 3-4 shots to the body, man. You get into the pocket and leave yourself open like that against JDM. JDM is far more dangerous than Leon. Leon may be cleaner, he may be more technical. Oh, he's so technical, right? Circling the octagon for 25 minutes. Oh, he's so technical. JDM is putting hands on you in these scenarios, and he's not letting up, right? There's a huge difference between being in there with somebody like Leon as a pressure fighter and being in there with somebody like JDM as a pressure fighter. No, Belal is going to be in danger, and I'm predicting that you will see Belal Muhammad taking some back steps in this fight, because he knows the danger of JDM, and I think it'll just take that first exchange, right, for JDM to establish the danger that he actually possesses in those hands. And I don't think it'll be so easy for Belal to take him down. I think he will take him down, but I'm not too sure how easy it'll be for him to control him down there. I really don't think it'll be that easy. I know some people will point to the Craig Jones sparring footage where he apparently puts Craig Jones to sleep, right? Craig Jones doesn't take himself too seriously. He doesn't seem to have much of an ego. He's just a playful guy. So it wouldn't surprise me if this was just him playing it up for the cameras, or trying to promote the fight, or promote JDM, or trying to maybe instill fear in Belal in some way. But it does seem like Craig Jones really backs JDM's ability to handle Belal on the ground. So is there a possibility that he could submit Belal? I mean, it's possible, right? Like Leon Edwards was able to take his back and control him for a good bit of time. And having said that, dude, on top of it, like, I know we like to make fun of Leon Edwards, but for a 25-minute fight where Belal Muhammad was the aggressor for 99% of it and dominant for, like, I would say 80% of the fight, Leon Edwards still managed to do the most damage in the 5th round. He single-handedly did more damage to Belal than Belal was able to do to Leon in one singular moment in that fight, man. And that's the thing. When you're in there with 25 minutes, JDM has 25 minutes to piece you up. He has 25 minutes to find his shot, and he hasn't really shown to have much of a suspect gas tank recently either. Of course, Belal Muhammad is the type of fighter who would be able to bring that out of an opponent, but I'm just not seeing it, man. And I don't think Belal Muhammad's striking is that good. Everybody fucking boosts up his hands like he has bombs. The dude honestly has pretty fucking mediocre hands. They're super mediocre, man. I wouldn't say that they're Juliana Pena hands. They're like maybe slightly better, but it's not that far off, man. I believe that JDM will be willing to walk through some of these shots from Belal in order to land his own. And it's not like JDM is a Carlos Prates type of fighter where he needs to land that one shot or he really has nothing else to offer, right? It's nothing like that whatsoever. JDM is more of a volume striker who also has that one punch knockout power because of his technique, right? He reminds me of Ilia Topuria in that regard, to where he can land the one punch knockout, but he can also put volume on you, right, without getting tired, right? That's real striking. You know, the ability to take some steam off your shots when the moment calls for it, change up the tempo a little bit. And that's what sets JDM apart from the rest of the division going up against Belal Muhammad. JDM is going to possess danger in the pocket, at range, and can fight well out of both stances. He's a great switch hitter. On the ground, if he's on the bottom, if he's able to get on top, if he takes the back, I believe that Belal Muhammad is simply just in more danger here for a 25-minute fight. I think JDM is going to go for it, dude. And I do believe that he finishes Belal Muhammad here. Now, I don't know how easy it'll be. I do think he'll face adversity. Belal will likely take some rounds off of him by the 3rd round. I think that the investments that JDM will make to the body of Belal Muhammad early on will catch up, and I do think that by the 3rd round he may just go and finish. He may just finish Belal, dude. I think he will. I think he'll finish Belal. I think he's gonna TKO him. I could see him also dropping Belal and maybe taking his back, choking him out or something like that, man. But dude, I see many paths to victory here for JDM, and I just feel like he's being overlooked. I think he's being overlooked by fans. I think he's being overlooked by Belal Muhammad himself. And the stars are aligning, I believe, for JDM to take the belt. And yes, he hasn't fought in over a year, right? He did break the arm against Gilbert Burns, so he doesn't have an excuse there. But since Belal Muhammad beat Leon Edwards, there was all this talk about how he's going to be this active champ and defend all these times. But he also hasn't fought in over a year. And at his age, that level of inactivity, I believe, can only hurt him, man. And we may just see him go into that octagon against JDM looking like the Usman that went up against Edwards the 3rd time. You know, it's a very strong possibility, although I'm not too sure how things will go, because Belal is the type of fighter who I believe can sustain that style, right? Because he isn't a particularly explosive guy. He doesn't rely on his speed or power. No, the man is a grinder. So at his age, I believe he can still employ that style to a high level. So it's really all up to JDM, and I do back his ability that even if he's taken down, I think he can scramble back to his feet. And when the fight is on the feet, I believe he will take his shots. He will take those moments, take advantage of those moments, those windows that he is given, and I believe those will present themselves. And as long as he's willing to take them, because Belal Muhammad, like I said, leaves himself way open for shots. And if he was in there on that night against Leon Edwards, right, against any other more active striker, more willing striker than Leon Edwards, I think he would have been cracked on that night, dude, because he was leaving himself open, dude. And I know I'm not the only one who saw that. Belal Muhammad is far from the perfect fighter. I think he's been a little bit fortunate with some of his matchups that he's had recently, and I just think that JDM has too much for him. But that's in no way me trying to disrespect Belal. I like the dude. I think he's funny. I love the fact that he apparently made Kamaru Usman cry. I think that's hilarious. And I do like Belal, I do, and I think he's overhated and he's underrated. But I think going into this fight, I think we're seeing the inverse of that situation, where people are now overrating Belal to quite ridiculous of a degree, while downplaying the danger that JDM really does possess. Like, people who are going around saying, "Oh, this fight will not even be close," right? The new meta in the MMA community, everyone's, "This will not be close." Oh, it's super gay, but that does conclude my thoughts. Yes, my prediction, once again, I will reiterate, JDM via 3rd round TKO. I think he will break down Belal Muhammad, but then again, having said that, as opposed to much of the MMA community in these predictions going around. I actually do think that this will be a close fight. I think this will be a closely contested matchup until the eventual finish from JDM. And JDM will bring violence back to the welterweight division, right? Violence will be king, and all will be great again. That's not to say that Belal isn't a great champion, but hey, man, he's been anything but active, and he's done everything but what he promised that he would be. So at the end of the day, man, I want a change of guard, and I want a more active champion. And I think JDM, right, barring any sort of injuries, keeping him out for prolonged periods of time, I think will be an active champion because he's just a game fucking fighter. Look at that nose, dude. That's the nose of somebody who just loves to fight. You know what I'm saying? No rhinoplasty, none of that shit. The man just loves to fight. And I love JDM, and I'm backing him until the very end, guys. So anyway, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one.